Is there any fish fillet here? Your interview starts now.
Starts now. Hi, this is Max Moment. Welcome to Jacob.
Oh, wait.
Oh, you missed it.
I completely missed it. I'm a failure.
I think I was feeling optimistic. The second race after Gingerman was Autobahn. We had less drivers at Autobahn, so I thought that we could try to be a little bit more competitive. We thought that we had the answers to some of the problems that we had at Michigan. It turned out that that wasn't the case.
By the time I went to Joliet, I didn't even know the track. I went to do some practice laps and I felt pretty much instantly comfortable. The car felt fast, felt responsive, and we were staying pretty competitive.
I felt like I was definitely ready, especially after the experience in the S10, getting a feel for what it's like at any kind of track event.
We learned how to run the car, and it was a good experience running a different platform that wasn't the S10. And it gave me a lot of experience in a smaller form. It wasn't as tall as the S10.
I didn't know how it was gonna go. I think we had gotten a lot of kinks ironed out in Gingerman. We were hoping that we weren't gonna have these last minute issues with the car again, things weren't gonna start blowing up.
Unlike most people, I didn't show up for the first day. I flew in from Las Vegas. I think it was 11 p.m. I got 2 hours of sleep. I arrived at 6 a.m.
We had Jaguar brakes that we thought we would want for Gingerman. They blew up, so in between we decided we were going to go back to the Lincoln brakes.
The amount of brake calipers we consumed at Autobahn was special.
I learned that we could go through an entire set of brake pads in about 6 hours. The Lincoln brakes are not sufficient for a race car. Who would have thought?
You're gonna give me PTSD talking about the brakes. I hate Lincoln brakes. Autobahn alone, I changed 7 brake calipers.
We lost a wheel speed sensor due to a caliper overheating in the rear. I'd never driven a car without ABS, but I was learning today.
We went through a full set of rear rotors, but not fronts, so we knew that there was a brake bias issue.
And we actually had a crazy issue where the rear brakes were braking way harder than the front brakes. So you come into a corner, you'd hit the brakes, and all of a sudden the tail of the car was loose.
My first lap around, pretty good. Second lap, I can push it a little. I lock out the brakes, go off the track. Okay, cool. Talk to the judges. They're like, so, why'd you go off track? And I think I literally yelled out my helmet, because I'm a Zoomer and I don't know how to use cars without ABS. And they just stared at me. I'm just bad. It was a skill issue. I don't know how ABS works.
We still managed a decent finishing position. And I told everybody after that weekend, hey, if we can finish a weekend without issues, we could very easily win our class. It's entirely possible.
What the fuck was going through your mind when you decided to buy another Lincoln?
I think the opportunity to buy another Lincoln presented itself, and I took it.
The whole reason we thought it'd be really funny to use a Lincoln LS in Lemons is because I went up to one of the judges after the race, Eric Rude, and I said to him,
"Is a Lincoln LS okay for Lemons?"
Fast forward later that year, Road Atlanta, it's December, and one of the pictures was of a Lincoln LS racing at Road Atlanta with Lemons. And we were furious. So mad, not actually furious, but we were super upset that we weren't going to be the first Lincoln LS at Lemons. But funny enough, the guy who I spoke to, Eric, sent an email to Jacob asking about how our Lincoln is going because he remembered us from pit race. And he asked Jacob if he wanted the contact information for these guys running this Lincoln. And the guy said, man, we're kind of done with this Lincoln. We've had it for a while. Do you want to buy it?
Okay, so they want to sell it. They've spent God knows how many years running this in multiple different racing series. They don't need to sell it, so we could get it for a decent price. I was like, if we have enough drivers in the future, why not do this? I couldn't say no to that. However, when we started digging into that car, there were a few things that we had to fix.
They took out the seat, they took out the belts, so there wasn't anything to sit on to drive it. It only wants to run hot. If it's cold even a little bit, it just sits on the starter and won't start.
First crank.
This thing is not happy when it's cold.
The suspension was shot, the tires were shot, the brakes were locked up, windshield was cracked. The cage was great, better than our cage. And it was so much nicer than the rest of the car. Even if this car is a pile, the cage is worth it. The motor in it had forged parts in it.
We purchased a seat from an attic. We put in a really narrow OMP seat. I think my waist is a 33 right now, and I'm the widest you can be for that car.
And those seat brackets were taller than the floor. So between having a tall seat and a narrow seat, we learned that the only way you could be comfortable in this car was if you were a short king.
A manlet.
A manlet, perhaps.
They had done all of the hard stuff, and it was in a good place for us to perfect rather than having to start over from a completely stock chassis.
The manlet car has very little structure left in the thing, so it's even lighter than the NFS car.
I didn't know just how much weight was pulled off of the rear. First time driving it and just treating it more like the NFS car. That back end just got out from under me in an instant, and I'm like, oh shit, crank that wheel over.
Having 2 cars on the team, that's twice the amount of brake calipers I gotta change.
Oh man, Road America was super fun. It was the first race we had in the manlet car. We had an untested car, and we had a car that we knew was going to have issues anyway, running at the same time with almost the same crew.
I think the night before, I laid there thinking about how much was going to go absolutely wrong. But I was excited though to see when it kind of came together. I was terrified about how the logistics of it were going to work too, because we had been only running one car at a time up to that point. We had absolutely no trial run beforehand.
I think we were kind of knowing what to expect from field testing it, but not really sure what to make of it.
I did try to make it look somewhat decent. There was just residue on the entire car. I was sitting there with a microfiber and alcohol for about 3 hours, and I polished it all out and made some of it actually look kind of decent.
One of the stickers we printed on the NFS car said "Live, Laugh, Lincoln."
How do you top the phrase "Live, Laugh, Lincoln"?
I bought the cheapest vinyl cutter I could find. It was $100.
So we printed out a bunch more kind of Wine Mom stickers, inspirational Tumblr quotes, and we put them all over the side of the car.
We got to ride in this whole parade with the cars. I got to ride in the back of the manlet car, trying to not get impaled or electrocuted.
Normally, when Lemons races happen, the BS inspection happens on track. It just happens before the race. Everybody goes in, gets their tech sheet done, and they go back to their garages. For Road America, they decided to do something special where all the cars went out on the street into the town of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and had them all lined up car show style and did the BS inspection in the town. We put an Xbox in the trunk of the NFS car and challenged the judges to a race in Most Wanted. But we had this fiasco with the generator for the Xbox. We had to go run out and get another one because ours didn't want to run.
In order to complete our BS inspection, we had to get a generator working to power an Xbox. Generator doesn't work, because why would a brand new generator work?
And by the time we got it all set up and ready to go, it started raining. So we had this Xbox and TV shielded in the back of the NFS car with the generator on the other side running in the pouring rain. We had to do our little skit for the BS judges. We got them rosé, we got them custom wine glasses with Live, Laugh, Lincoln on it. We gave them a wine prescription.
We hit our target demographic, and a lot of middle-aged white women commented on our car that they liked it. So I'm happy with that result.
Friday was good to get used to the car, and then come Saturday, Sunday, we actually had a general idea of how it was going to perform.
Really what that car is, because there's no weight on the rear end, is you're braking and trailing on the turn-in, and then you're praying a little bit of neutral or oversteer that you don't spin it. A lot of us kind of had to change up our driving styles for it because we were used to a pretty friendly car.
It got so cold that night in Road America. We woke up the next morning, we went to the track. Both of the cars were leaking gas out of the top of the gas tank. I had taken off the top of the pump hanger. I think I just tightened it up tighter, wiped off all the gas and said, go back out there. It was 5 minutes to green flag. Like, we had no time to fix anything. I didn't want to start another race with an hour down.
Saturday morning, I think it was like 3 hours into the race, we were 1-2 in class. Okay, this is working. Like, we actually did something that works. We have the people to do it, and we have all the pieces in place, and this could actually do something. Now, things happened.
The NFS car decided to be kind of a drama queen. The brakes kept going out. It ran out of fuel on the track for some reason. It's crazy, right? Like, who would run out of gas on the track? Not me. I wouldn't.
Who ran out of gas on the track?
It was me. It was me. I did that.
And the reason that Joe ran out of gas is because the gas tank works off of a vacuum system. And when you disturb the vacuum, if there's some kind of leak in that, it won't fill up properly. It's a saddle tank. So this side of the saddle was full. The other side, like, it wasn't siphoning the gas to the other side properly. The people who were gassing it up in the pit saw the gas coming out of the filler neck and they thought it was full. But because of the leak that we had from earlier in the day, it was letting air get trapped in there. So Joey went out, he didn't have a full tank.
The engine cut out right at the beginning of the front straight, which at Road America is over a mile long. So it was enough momentum to get me up the hill, past the finish line, along the wall of the pits where it came to a stop, and I had no power at all. So I was watching cars to my left fly by me at over 100 miles an hour. They finally got a tow truck out to me, and they said to me, make sure that you keep your foot on the brake, keep pressure so that there's no slack in the tow strap. Since the car wasn't running, I had no power brakes. So I kept pumping the brake pedal and kept getting stiffer and stiffer and stiffer until I had no brakes whatsoever. We started going again, past turn 4 into turn 5, which is downhill. It went so slack that the wheel caught it, wrapped around the wheel and the suspension. So now I had one wheel like this and one wheel like this. But not only that, the hook on the end of the tow strap punctured the tire.
That ended up bending a tie rod and cracking a wheel. We had spare wheels, thank God, but we didn't have spare alignment materials. We got the car put back together, actually not knowing that the tie rod was bent, sent Aaron out, and he did a whole stint on a tie rod that was bent like this.
My steering wheel was about 30 degrees to the left.
He comes back in, he did the whole stint on that, and he hadn't driven the car before that. So it was the handling's a little off, and I get back in at the end of the day, and I'm like, bro, this thing sucks. Doesn't turn to the left at all. It felt like you get into a crash on like a simulator and the wheels turn in like this, but you turn and you keep turning and nothing happens, and then all of a sudden everything happens at once.
Oh, Christ.
It felt like that, and I did maybe 20 minutes in the car with that bent tie rod before the brakes failed.
If it wasn't for the parts store being an hour away, it wouldn't have been that bad of a fix.
I had to go down to the 24-hour auto parts store in Milwaukee, which I actually saw on the internet the other day, someone talking about how dangerous and scary that area is. Bought the part, it's like, all right, we're good. Came back, drove an hour up, and then we held the one part, and we looked at the other part, and it's like, these aren't the same.
This is something else.
And I said, you know what, it's like midnight. It's one. I can blast down the highway. I was doing a solid high rate of speed. I came over a hill and slowed up a little bit, and then I saw the lights, and it's like, oh, damn. It was a rather steep ticket, which I haven't paid yet. It's due at the end of this month, actually. It's still sitting out there, but that's the government's problem.
That was probably the lowest point of the weekend for me. Like, oh God, we were doing so well a couple hours ago, and now we're all the way down to here.
So me and Jacob took both of the rings off, the rings to take the hanger out, and we found that one, I had messed up and put the ring on the Need for Speed car, put it on wrong. It was cross-threaded. The tread pitch on those rings are so crazy high that there's no way to tell if you put it on cross-threaded. Lo and behold, when we finally got the one on the Need for Speed car done, so we moved over to the Manley car, we took it off, and there was no O-ring. That was why the Manley car was leaking. I'll take responsibility for the NFS car, but there was literally no O-ring on the gasket. No wonder it leaked. Very quickly, me and Jacob found ourselves sitting in the garage at 1:30 in the morning, just trying to get everything done. Sunday was pretty cool. I got to just sit around. I actually took a nap in the truck for a while. I was amazed nobody knocked on the window. It was like, Justin, we need you.
Manlet car ended up being actually a pretty damn great race car.
The biggest key differences are the suspension setup, quite frankly, and the weight distribution. So Manlet car is super nose heavy, and it's very oversprung in the rear. What that results in, especially on the rear wheels, is a car that will not bite on acceleration as much as you want it to, but also won't lean into its body weight in the rear as you trail it into a corner. If you're not careful on the brakes, you can very, very quickly loop that car in a circle. The NFS car as a whole is a much more complete vehicle. You do it, you turn, you trail, and you plant it to go. That's all you have to do, because the weight in the rear and those D2s, turns out they're actually kind of good, and I hate to admit that Stan's coilovers kind of worked. But they plant pretty well out of a turn. So like Gingerman's a great example. It's like a horseshoe, it's a slow speed horseshoe. You brake hard, at like the 1, you turn in and you plant it out. Great example of the Mantlet car. Opposite is turn 5 at Road America. It's a big braking zone. You're into it and you're turning in, you're getting that really smooth off of it, and then if you're on the throttle too early, you're full lock drifting out of it.
Our fastest pit stop was at Road America because we finally got down like getting the people in and out of the cars really quick, getting them set up, getting the cars fueled up.
I sat there with the team to figure out how to refuel, and I just watched the number 1 car just set up like the conga line, and they all had the things over the shoulder, and it was like go time, so they went in it, out of the way, in it, out of the way, and that's kind of what we used to do refueling. We kind of turned into, I think by like noon, day 2, we were like a pretty well-oiled machine for the last quarter of that race. It went pretty well.
We can do it, and we can do it really well actually, as long as things go well.
The drivers were passing a ton of people. We got a podium finish in class.
After Saturday night, it was very relieving that both of the cars finished the race. I will say that the little parade at the end of the race was slightly disappointing. I don't know why I thought both of the cars would come off the track at the same time. The first car came off, I was like, yeah! And then I had to wait another 15 minutes for the next car to come off. By the time the Mantlet car got around, I was like, yeah, good job, guys.
We have the ability to really push this team to the next level. We've ironed out a lot of our hiccups. I think we have a chance to win next year.
I think that's probably going to be the goal going into this next race season, is really trying to reclaim that spot that I know we can hit.
To be able to do something like this with my friends and have this operation that we've put together, I'm super proud of it.
Over the course of the whole year, I think the team grew immensely. I think everyone's roles really got solidified. Honestly, on race weekends, God bless Anna. She held us together. I felt like Gingerman, we had an idea of what was going on, but we were very not on the same page. And by the time we got to Road America, everyone knew their jobs, and if they didn't, Anna would make sure that they knew their jobs.
The more you can do ahead of time so that the car is ready to go when you get there, the better your race weekend is typically going to go until unforeseen circumstances. Running over a tow strap. Running over a tow strap. Running out of gas. Can we name a few things? It is about staying on the track to be successful and winning your class or your division.
Who knew?
Who knew?
I'm writing that down.
But
we gotta put that one on the vision board.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Stay on track.
Stay on track.
No black flags.
End of season, I think we improved massively, and I'm telling you right now, we're only gonna get better.
Man, we have so many cool projects coming up, but as far as the Lincolns go, I'm just excited to see them keep turning laps, keep making everybody laugh, and us all just having a fun time actually being race car drivers.